Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming back to the Love Fruit podcast. We've got another great guest today, and I'll be speaking to Eli. Eli the Martyr is the name you go on. And Eli is the owner of the Freemelon Society YouTube channel, and you can find him on Instagram there as well. And Eli's also been a stuntman, an actor. He's been involved in a number of films, I believe, including Planet of the Apes and other things. Got some really interesting videos on YouTube in terms of movement and exercise things as well, on top of just the diet stuff. And you had one video that's really popular where you're running on all fours, which is must be hard to do.
Yeah.
Quite interesting. So obviously someone is kind of basically an athlete, and it looks like there's a bit of martial arts in there. I'm not sure, a lot of stuff going on in the exercise side of things. But Eli, anything else you would like to share about yourself as an introduction to the audience?
You pretty much encapsulated everything that would be necessary for the audience to know. I do work in film. I'm a stuntman, but I have had a lifelong interest and I guess experience with physical activity, movement, acrobatics, gymnastics, martial arts. These are all things that I picked up from a very young age. And what I think is one of my more valuable things for the type of the raw vegan or raw fruit community is that I do have this very, very dense athletic background that never changed. And in fact, in some ways improved once I started making this transition to a very, very simple and almost exclusively raw fruit diet, and still managed to retain all of the athletic things that I was doing prior to. And what I think is good is that I can be an example to show people that you can have all of the athletic ability that you want on a simple diet of, minimal protein and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. And still be perfectly functional, and not only just functional, but far more healthy. Because as we know, fitness and health is something I learned a long time ago. Fitness and health are not the same. You can have a high level of fitness and have deplorable health, right? And so I didn't want that for myself. I wanted to have good fitness, but only if it meant being paired with good health. Like I wanted my health to spill over to my fitness, and not my fitness be something that was just counterbalancing the bad habits of my health and eating lifestyle. I didn't want that, right? So I came to terms with that a while ago, a long time ago, and I've been noticing a slowly accruing amount of benefits on and on. So yeah, no, you pretty much said it all. Lifelong athlete, work in film as a stuntman, and I have a very almost exclusive raw fruit diet, and I still managed to do it all. So yeah, no, you pretty much got everything there.
Yes, it's interesting what you were saying about fitness there. And I was actually interviewing a bodybuilder recently, and he was talking about this. He was talking about performance is not the same as health, and when it comes to fitness, with bodybuilding, they may be focused on a certain type of performance, certain type of physical ability or whatever, and he was saying that that's not the same as what you would do to be healthy. And I think it's kind of interesting. There might be a conflict there with certain physical activities and someone that is aligned with health, but at the same time, you're a stuntman, so it's kind of interesting. That's maybe something that could be seen to be risky for the body. Maybe, I'm not sure. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, there is that inherent risk in a lot of the stuff that we do on camera and film. But it's funny because it is a subjective thing. It's a very subjective thing. You take two people to the beach, one person is going to be deathly afraid of the water, and the other person is just going to see the water as something joyous and wonderful, and they take great relish in going and jumping in the waves, no fear or nothing. So it's the same external condition, but two drastically different approaches as to what that condition means for the person. So, and I think the difference is just familiarity with whatever your lifestyle has been. So for me, someone looking from the outside might see a particular stunt as maybe, oh my God, that's so dangerous or that's so crazy. Where because of whatever the background is in familiarity, for me, it's like, no, that's not that bad. But I can show you this particular thing. That's crazy, right? For me. So
Right. Yeah.
yes, there is an inherent risk in all these things, but no more so than driving in the car every single day, right?
For
That
sure.
is an inherent risk. Okay,
Yes.
very, very, very dangerous. In fact, more dangerous than some of the stuff we do on camera, right? So it's yeah, it's a very subjective thing. It's a very subjective thing. But in my defense, most of the stuff that I'll always be doing on camera, or that I will not acquiesce, that's the wrong term, but be willing to do on camera, is always something that is well within my comfort zone.
Right.
Usually, yeah. If I'm offered a job that is too far outside my comfort zone, I won't just take it for the money. I'll just say, you need to get someone else who's going to be doing this job with more safety, with more ease. So no problem passing the buck on to someone who's more qualified than me. So you always look after yourself in this regard. In this industry.
It's interesting to look back on the history of films as well and seeing what the kind of stunts people were doing back in the day without any any safety equipment, and even the stars, like some of the actual actors were doing some of these stunts. And I've seen some of the Jackie Chan stuff as well, where they were doing sort of crazy stunts. So yeah, it's obviously risky, but as you're saying, if that's within their comfort zone and they know what they can do, they know their physical abilities, they've done it many times. It looks way riskier to ourselves myself as a bystander looking in. But I want to go back to you and talk about what I usually ask people to start off with is about your upbringing and your backstory in terms of instead of your health, your diet, your lifestyle, and were you brought up in the same kind of standard kind of diet perspective as many people, or did you have an alternative in there?
Pretty much. I was just the run of the mill guy growing up with in the standard Italian culture, and so it really nothing different than anyone. Standard Canadian, standard American, standard Australian, standard European diet. Anything goes. The dairies, the meats, the processed foods, the cereals, the whole shebang. So I was no different than anyone. I was always very physically active, and I enjoyed physical activity, and I was always active as a kid. But my health suffered as a result, and it didn't suffer in the hospitalizing, dire infirmity type of degree. I never got to that point, but it was enough that it started eventually to get me to question this can't be normal. I can't be going to school every day with a requisite amount of Kleenex because I'm going to be blowing my nose all day. There's no way that's normal.
Right.
The asthma is not normal. The seasonal allergies, these things, you intuit that these things are not, they can't be normal. They can't be, right? You look out at life out on the planet, and none of the other animals seem to be suffering with all these human things. So it's like, I must be doing something wrong. And so, of course, later on, I go, high school, university. By the time I got to like late high school, early university, that's when I really started to be interested in the rudiments of true health. And so over time, just hitting the books, discovering more and more, learning about natural hygiene and that whole movement, and then of course the pharmaceutical industry, where they came from, their origin, and collecting all the dots of data, and then starting to put them all together, and then figuring out, there's been a lot of the health, the secrets, not secrets. The principles of vitality have really been isolated and sequestered from the general discussion. And a lot of those tenets of of vitality. So the tenets of vitality, they're really bloody simple. Like they're not complicated at all. And it has to do with just simply providing your body with what physiologically it prefers, right? What it's physiologically designed to ideally consume. And then not doing all the things that are not designed for you. And in so doing that, just these two very simple prescriptions, it seems that life takes over and starts to work magic in your body. And it didn't, you know, when I went to this diet, when I transitioned over to fruitarianism or a fruit-based lifestyle, I should say, if I want to be very perfectly accurate, you started to notice this right away. I noticed that, and this is something we can get into because maybe I can talk about, you know, living this type of an athletic type of lifestyle, film as a stuntman, while maintaining this what seems to be a restrictive diet. That's what people say. I don't see it like that at all. I see this as the most liberating, easy as pie diet for me. But we can get into that. Right? So getting back to what I was saying, yeah, I noticed that all these little irregularities and annoyances in my lifestyle, they were starting to get regulated and starting to go away. I think I mentioned on another interview at some point, I can't remember where, but the first time I noticed that, I went for a jog. And when I came back from the jog, my chest wasn't tight and wheezing, as if there was something there that was just obstructing it. And my whole life, every time I did cardiovascular work, I always noticed that at the end of the bout, there would be this weird congested feeling in my lungs. And I figured out what was happening. It was only after a certain amount of months, maybe it was even an entire year, I can't remember. But after a particular period of cleansing, I noticed that my breathing was unencumbered after that cardiovascular bout. And it was just like, oh, Ronnie, it was like, oh, yes, yes, finally, you know, oh my God, it was the secret that I was missing my whole life. And so, okay, I think what I want to get into is just how this type of style helps or is manageable with the lifestyle that I live in, you know, in terms of athletics, being a stuntman and all that kind of stuff, because people might be interested in that. Yeah. So yeah, here are the things that make this type of lifestyle really important for whether you're in my position or any other athletic endeavor. Okay, your recovery. If you can recover very, very, very well from either exercise or stress or some sort of physical trauma or whatever it is, if your recovery is hyper efficient and on point, right, it means that you're going to have a far longer career. You're going to be operating with far less injuries, and you're going to be able to perform a lot better, whether it's on film or something else. Right? Your recovery is so important. There are times on set where you're doing blocks of shooting. Okay, right now I'm away from home. I'm traveling. I'm in a hotel room right now, and we are going to be doing about a week or maybe more of night shoots. So shooting all night and having to be very physically active, right? Lots of physical activity. Now, if you can't recover well from that, it's only going to take a day or two before you start sucking on camera, right? You need to be able to perform well. You need to have good energy, regardless, despite the fact that you're up all night, right? You need to recover well. And nothing is going to make you recover as well as an exclusive raw food diet of uncooked, unprocessed vegetables, fruits, and nuts, right? Those three. So these three are the human diet: fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. I choose primarily fruits, and then if I need to or want to or just want a little change for whatever reason, some intuitive reason, then yeah, sure, I don't mind having vegetables or nuts and seeds, but primarily everything is fruit, right? Most of the time. So you eat from those three food groups, and your recovery is gonna be fantastic. Okay. Whether it's muscle soreness, which honestly I experience far less of it, even after heavy bouts of activity. So recovery improves dramatically. So that helps me be a stuntman, be an athlete, be an acrobat at this stage. Flexibility and joint pains. When you go on a raw food diet, especially if you have a lot of, if the majority, or not even the majority, but a good portion of the diet comes from fruit, very high water content fruit, hydrating, alkalizing, enzyme rich, biophoton rich fruit. What happens is it starts to wash away and pull out impurities from your joints and your muscles. And because your tissues are so well oxygenated, it starts to introduce a laxity, a type of less tension in all the joints as all the acidic byproduct pulled out and shuttled off for elimination. So you become more flexible without necessarily having to train lots of flexibility. You just, you become, again, more injury resistant because you're more flexible. Your bones are dense, right? Your bones become very strong because now you're not introducing all of the acidic waste products and byproducts from your lifestyle. And so your body has no longer has recourse to pull resources from your bones in order to buffer the sins of your diet. So living like this as I do, my recovery is fantastic, utterly fantastic. Yeah, my flexibility is great, okay? And my bones are strong. The joints are strong and not sore. All the little aches and pains, these things start to go away. You could stop right there.
Absolutely.
At just advantages, and that would be enough for you to want to make a transition to this lifestyle. But it goes on, right? Your cardiovascular efficiency and endurance, this improves. There are times when we're doing drills in rehearsals or on set or whatnot, where I can notice people huffing and puffing all over me, and I've done the exact same activity. And, I'm just kind of breathing through my nose, like everything's great. And I realize I'm like, holy crap. Like, I just did the same thing everybody else is doing, but I don't seem to be huffing and puffing like everybody else. Like there's a type of cleanliness where when all the tissues are, again, free and clear from all the mucus waste and acidic waste and all these impurities, energy and air, airflow, it seems to like just go through you with such ease that all the channels are unencumbered, and it translates, without being scientific here, it just translates into more metabolic and cardiovascular efficiency and purity. And you really feel it. You really do feel it. So you've got all these advantages working for you. And I started noticing them, and it started making me a better stuntman, right?
Amazing.
And so when people ask, how do you manage that? How can you go on the set and have long hours, and still maintain just an almost exclusive fruit lifestyle? And the answer is because I gain all these advantages from doing so. It makes my job easier. It's living this way. If I weren't living this way, it would not be so easy for me to go to set and, for example, work the whole day without eating anything and then just wait till I get home to eat, right? I would not have that level of comfort and efficiency if I were eating all the other adulterated things that we take for granted in culture. If I were still doing those things, I would need to scarf down, whatever, the fried potatoes and the smoked lamb at lunch, and I would need a whole bunch of snacks and whatnot to keep me going, because my body wouldn't be efficient. But when you have cultivated this level of efficiency, you have this comfort, this just really placid comfort with either not eating at all or eating very minimally, but of very, very nourishing food. And so the answer to that is just, yeah, because it's easier. It makes my life easier to be more restrictive. And with what I do eat is only fruits, or almost exclusively fruits. When I feel like it, I don't mind salads or lettuce, even some other raw fruits, raw vegetables. I mean, if I have a salad with shaved carrots, some cabbage, and some beets or whatever. Yeah, I don't do that very often at all, but I wouldn't have a problem with it because it's acceptable raw food, right? It's still on the menu. So yeah, so we've got all these advantages weighing in my favor and allow me to be better at my job. Okay, and
do you know the
yeah,
thing that's really just? I just wanted to jump in because
yeah, please.
stood out to me with what you're saying that a lot of people don't bring up is the joints and the bones. A lot of people bring that up when I'm talking to them, and I've noticed that that's one of the big things I noticed as well was that the first week of going vegan and mostly raw,
Yeah,
that I had these slight joint pains that were starting to develop in my hips and my knees, and this was in my like late 20s, so I wasn't particularly old, so I felt like maybe that could have got worse, but that just disappeared in the first week. Like it just totally disappeared, those joint pains.
yeah,
And I've noticed something in my bones as well, and I can't verify it, but say with my hands, I would always notice, like if my hands were sensitive. If I hit my hand against the desk, against the doorknob accidentally, it would really hurt, and I would really notice it. And at some point on a raw diet, I hit my hand, and I noticed I didn't feel it. It had changed. Something in the bones had changed, and I can't verify it. I can't prove it, but in my experience, something had changed. Now, I fell back on a cooked food diet for like six months.
yeah.
Back again, and the joint issues started to come back again. Like this is so obviously the physiology is changing, even
Yes.
with what people term a healthier cooked diet. And
Yes.
so it just proved to me that there is a bigger difference than people realize. Maybe we've not been able to prove it yet or exactly what it is, but we feel it. And obviously felt that. Yeah, what you've just said there, amazing in terms of the fitness side. Going back to your story a little bit, Eli, what were the moments that made you start to make changes diet wise? And was it physical performance first? Was it the health issues? Was it the career side of things? Where was the motivation there to make those changes?
That's a good question. So it was a combination of just nagging health issues. Okay, so particularly the mucus congestion that drove me absolutely nuts. Drove me absolutely bonkers. So I had that. Okay, so that was a strong motivation to change. And so I also had allergies. Okay, really annoying, and seasonal allergies too. So between allergies, chronic sinusitis, mucus, plagued with mucus, and a couple like little other joint aches and pains and whatnot. It just it helped to inspire me to kind of do some research, get just hit the books, basically, to hit the books. But on top of that, really, it's not that I had any kind of, again, life-threatening illness or disease. I wish I had a fantastically motivating story to tell you. There are other people who have way better stories than me. But in my case, no, it wasn't anything like that. It's just that because of those little minor issues, I started hitting the books, and it really captivated me. And I just kept studying and reading and reading and reading and reading. And there's only so much time you can devote to putting in research into health before it starts to spill over in your own behavior, right?
It's funny you mentioned not having the great story, because I've thought about that myself. Like I didn't have this. I was at death's door, went raw, and recovered. I don't have that either. But I think it's maybe more impressive in a sense that you took that initiative from the small differences. Like you already saw something's not right here. You observe the world, and it sounds like you were observing nature as well. So you were looking at humans in the context of the natural world and saying, there's something not right here. I'm going to look into this. And most people do that, but you were triggered just by mucus issues, whereas a lot of people who have those tremendous stories, they must have just been not listening to their body for like decades or years. And then it breaks down really bad. Like, it's amazing. But no, I think it's really impressive when someone like yourself sees those signs early on and makes the changes, you know, quicker. And do you think that kind of, it sounds like you were kind of observing nature as well. So were you someone that was quite in touch with nature?
That's a good question. It was, I started to become more aware of it when I was trying to reconcile these types of health principles and my lack of health, right? So initially, no, I wouldn't call myself, more in tune with natural, with anything natural than the average person. No, not initially. It was just only starting to asking the questions prompted by what I was reading that just started to get me to recognize that there were these stark differences between what should and is natural and the way I personally live my life and how everybody else lives their lives, right? Just noticing, okay, hold on. Something is wrong here. Exactly like you said, something is wrong here. You know, there should be no reason why, for example, I have to find recourse to eat every single thing imaginable under the sun in a way that it doesn't come naturally in nature, and why all the other animals on the planet have no problems not doing that, and they seem perfectly fine without any of the joint pains, the diabetes, the cancer, the atherosclerosis, the Parkinson's. Where is that? It's just that question, just that one paradigm alone, or just that one thought, it's enough to drive you to ask enough questions to make some changes, or at least that's what it did for me. And sorry.
I was. Could you share with us some of the reading materials you were going through what influenced you? Kevin Trudeau's Natural Cures that they don't want you to know about. I might be paraphrasing a bit, but anyway, Kevin Trudeau's material that got me going. At least alerting me to the fact that there were these things that you could do to start to improve the quality of your life. Now, looking back on the material now, there are lots of things I disagree with, but at least it got me thinking. I read, so then I started getting into the natural hygiene. David Icke, fantastic researcher, read lots of his material, and he gets into everything, right? Lots of Erica, how the world works, ancient history. So, but he also talks a lot about health as well. So reading David Icke started to plant those seeds. Then I, obviously getting into the natural hygiene. So Arnold Ehret, Hereward Carrington, just the authors. Oh, wow.
Arnold Ehret's work, Hereward Carrington's work, Dr. Tilden's work. Sylvester Graham's work, some esoterica, Annie Besant, Madame Blavatsky, H.P. Blavatsky, Rudolf Steiner, Hilton Hotema, all of these authors, Herbert Shelton, he's T.C. Fry, Morris Kroc.
Wow.
I'm just rhyming off all of these authors that I plugged away at. And, each individual resource, you read it, and sometimes they're at odds with some of the other resources you read. So it's only by getting a wide selection of them, you kind of aggregate, and you have to kind of reconcile some of the between you, because they're not going to align on everything. And so you kind of have to make it work on your own, right? And that only comes from taking it as much as possible and then finding a way to, with a rational mind, try to find where they align and where they don't and why, and see where and how that would work. So yes, so that's essential. Those are all really great sources that I would recommend to anybody. All those authors, you'll get some fantastic material from.
Yeah, I mean that's like a who's who list of a lot of the natural hygiene experts and stuff. But you've got a couple of names in there that I rarely hear people talk about: Hilton Hotima, Hereward Carrington. I think some of these guys have really far out ideas. A lot of people reference Arnold Ehret, of course, Herbert Shelton, and not so many people go back to the older writers, Tilden and Sylvester Graham and that kind of stuff. But that's amazing. How did you? What was the pathway down to reading that stuff? Was it just stuff you came across, or was there people pointing you in that direction?
It was no, I didn't have much of a network or community at all. It was more so just myself and the books. I would just read one book, and then the first thing I would do is I would just go right to the bibliography and just raid the bibliography and just, okay, buy this, and then snowball effect. And then I would do the same thing for all the books in the bibliography that I subsequently bought. So that's what I was doing. I was just going into the source material and buying all those books, because, you know, an author can be really good at encapsulating the works of all the other authors, but it's different when you actually go and read the whole source itself. There's way more context that jumps out at you. And I learned that after, you know, going, I'm like, oh my God, there's a lot here that the author didn't really flesh out. So it's always good to do that. Yeah. So it was just a matter of going through bibliographies and buying all this material.
That's a great technique. And I think a lot of people don't do that. I don't even think to do that. But it's a brilliant technique of asking yourself, if you come across something great, and that could even be in arts and music and anything.
Oh yeah.
Who did they get their stuff from? Like, who were they influenced by? And that's something that few people do. But that is a great point. Like, finding the stuff in the bibliography, looking at the studies. I mean, that's a great way of getting more information there as well for people. But yeah, I mean, you talked about earlier on the tenets of natural health, the tenets of natural hygiene and things like that. From this process of reading these books, do you feel like you've internalized a lot of these principles? And what would you say are some of the main things that you hold that?
Yeah, that's a good question as well. You ask a very good question. So over time, there are a couple core things that really, the experiences that I've had, whether it's transitioning, whether it's whatever, the whole lifestyle as up to this point. One big thing. If there's one thing that you could take away from this interview, is the rest principle. Okay, the rest principle. When you're doing this diet, okay, when you're doing this lifestyle, I shouldn't even say diet. When you're doing this lifestyle of living on exclusively raw foods, okay, what you're doing in essence is you are affording your body more rest, physiological rest, okay, digestive rest. You're giving yourself an easier time with food so that less energy is required to process and digest and absorb the food, and thus liberating more energy for you at your disposal to do all the other things that life demands. And so essentially what you're doing is you're conserving energy, right? I say the rest principle, because rest is the great reconstitutor of vitality. You cannot go through life without rest. You need rest. If you go without rest, you die, full stop, right? You can't eat your way into recovering energy, right? You can, I don't care how many blueberries and pineapples and mangoes and cabbage and artichoke and whatever you have. I don't care how much of that you have. If you do it in the absence of rest, you die days later, right? So when we're doing all these, when we're going through life, if we can keep the rest principle in mind, and anytime you are taxing yourself, whether it's mental energy, studying, homework, whether it's going out for to the sauna, to the spa, if there's a day where you're out in the cold and you're like shivering all day, right? If you had a lot to eat that day, if you've been in a yelling match with your girlfriend or guy friend, okay, all of these are taxes on your energy, very, very profound taxes on your energy. And you have to recognize when you are taxing your system so that you can make sure to get rest on the other end, because it is rest that's going to reconstitute your health, and there is nothing else that's going to do it. We've all heard of the miraculous stories of people making dramatic health recoveries from things like juice cleansing, mono fruit dieting, from fasting, okay? What do all these things have in common? The thing that they have in common is that they afford the body enough digestive rest or simplicity, right? And it allows more energy to be conserved and not wasted, thus allowing that energy to be rediverted into the areas where it needs work in the body. When you fast completely, that's like the absolute type of rest, right? It's the same thing as sleeping. When you sleep, you reconstitute your health. When you're fasting, you reconstitute your health, and you're just shutting off your digestion so you gain more energy, right? So this rest principle, it's so important. It's so important. Even on a fruit-based lifestyle, if I don't pay attention to my rest, right? I work in film, okay? Let's say I have a night shoot one, expend a lot of energy in the nighttime. And in the daytime, I decided I wanted to go and exercise, okay? And do all sorts of stuff. And I don't pay attention to my rest. The next day, I can feel run down. I can feel run down despite being on this fantastic diet that gives you all this energy. You will feel run down, right? You might get sniffles. You might get, whatever it is. So you have to pay attention to your rest. I think that's one of the most important things that I've learned over time, is that no matter what your diet is, you have to keep track of when you are taxing yourself, either physically, mentally, or emotionally, and make sure to rest to reconstitute what you lost, right? Expending your energy in all those ways. Because rest is the only way to truly, truly heal and recover vitality, and nothing else will do it like Mother Nature does when you rest. So if there's one thing you can remember, keep track of when you are exerting yourself, right? And make sure to rest. Do not over exercise, do not overeat, do not over sunbathe, do not over cold therapy yourself, do not over anything, right? Because when you do, you tax yourself. Or if you do, life happens, whatever, you can't avoid it. When you do, just recognize it and make sure to get extra rest or sleep on the other end. Okay, so that's one of the great things that I realized. And then the other, it goes hand in hand with that, is simplicity. It's one of the first lectures I put up on my channel. Just adding simplicity to your life, whether it's your clothes, your friends, your diet, just simplifying. When you simplify things, things are more organized, they work more efficiently, especially digestively. Simplicity, my God. The difference in your digestive, in the feeling in your stomach, when you eat something simple as opposed to complex, oh my God, it's night and day. You know this, we all know this. We all know the difference, right? It's night and day difference with how you feel when you eat something simple as opposed to complex, right? And that spills over to all the other aspects of life too. So simplicity and the rest principle, they kind of go hand in hand together. I would say those are two of the most, if you can dwell on those, they'll affect your life in the best ways.
That's amazing. Yeah. So
yeah.
And in terms of you've done all this study and reading, did you have you've looked at all the classic old works. Was there anyone that was guiding you that is present today that was a teacher of yours or that you were following at the time? Is there anyone whose style that you followed in particular in terms of how they approach diet and lifestyle?
To be honest, no, most all of my more profound motivations were all authors that have passed away a long time ago. I only got into the more conventional ones like way later in the game. Like I was already long-term fruitarian before I got onto the 80-10 Doug Graham's 80-10-10 diet. Oh man, I didn't read that until like my fourth year being a fruitarian or whatnot.
Oh wow.
Fantastic book. Yeah, utterly fantastic book. I wish I'd read it earlier because it would have helped motivate me. But yeah, so I didn't get into the more contemporary works until a bit later on, which is strange.
So how did you make that transition to a fruitarian diet, and what did that look like? And was it overnight? Was it trial and error? How did you get to the point where you were at a place you were happy with it?
Yeah. Luckily for me, I spent a good chunk of time being a pretty clean plant-based eater prior to making the transition to fruitarianism. So I was plant-based for about 7-8 years or so prior to. So I'd cut out the meat and dairy a long time ago. Over that time, I started making more slight changes. We cut out bread, like wheat products and gluten, all gluten products. So I cut that out and noticed lots of improvements in my health there. And then I was also fasting religiously every single, sorry, I say religiously. I was fasting very diligently every weekend.
Yeah.
With bail. So 36-hour fast every single weekend. No exceptions. And so I was doing this plant-based diet and the fasting, and then of course occasional longer fasts, 3-4 days. So I was getting lots of good practice and cleansing in the lifestyle, and that was preparing me for what was to come later on, which would be what I'm doing now, which would be the more fruit-based lifestyle. So that being said, when it did come time for me to make that transition, when I did feel ready to try going more fruit, I was on a much better footing than many people are when they decide to jump into a fruit-based diet.
Yeah.
I a lot of the problems and troubles people get when they do this diet, or when they do this lifestyle, I should say, are because they have not either noticed or respected or recognized that the transition, it can be very, very lengthy, right? And sometimes it's not what we want to hear. We don't want to hear that you need to, or you should spend a good deal of time making a slower transition. We don't want to hear that, but it does, for me, it really helped, because when I did go almost exclusively fruit, the transition was much easier because I'd had all of this prior training. Really, I'll call it what it was, just training for this lifestyle. So for me, it wasn't too bad a transition. It was a very minimal transition. So let's say the day I decided to start doing it, I still had lots of in my fridge, in the pantry and whatnot. So potatoes and lentils and buckwheat and all this kind of stuff. So I didn't throw it all away. I just started adding more fruits to my life, and then in the evening, just doing the cooked meals and just getting rid of the stuff in the fridge and in the pantry. So I slowly, over the next month or so, started chipping away at the stuff that was in the house without buying more stuff. And then once that was all done, then I just kind of went for it. I'm like, all right, I feel like I'm ready. Like, I'm feeling good. I want to give this a try. And the big thing that really helped me was my mental state. It was when I started doing this, I had put in enough time researching and understanding to be absolutely sure-footed that this is what I'm supposed to do. And the absence of all the other things in the lifestyle, it wasn't in my head, it wasn't restriction. Okay, it was not framed as a restriction. Not that I was depriving myself of these things. That was not the mentality at all. For me, it was just this joyous liberation from the tyranny of food preparation and all of these things that make eating difficult and complex. So I was removing myself from the complexity and introducing simplicity into my life. And that frame of mind, that allowed me a great advantage over people that jump into it too early and they start doing the diet, but they're still feeling restricted. They're still feeling like they've been deprived and they have to use discipline to stay the path. No. I didn't have any of that, right? And if cultivating that mindset, that's a game changer, because now, you know, you're not building up this mental tension of, oh, I missed this food, I missed that food, no, for me, it was like, no, I'm deliberately avoiding those things because I know what they do to me. And I'm embracing the simplicity and the beauty of doing this lifestyle because that's what really treats my body. That's what does well for me. So that was a great help in terms of why I was able to get it.
Yeah, and to me, what you've just said there is so important, and is such a obvious example of the success that you've had with sticking to the lifestyle long term. Is that what you're saying is that you're, through this research and understanding the knowledge, your mindset had changed, and the way that you didn't see it as this restrictive, giving up things, sort of difficult thing that a lot of people see it. And it reminds me of this quotation from Herbert Shelton that I've shared a lot, and I put it at the bottom of some of my emails and stuff. And it says, he said, "We must raise our understanding of our lifestyle to a plane where it will challenge us to realize there is such a thing as an abundant life, a life that causes us to accept the restrictions gladly and willingly, not because they are restrictions, but because they are a part of the means by which the higher and more abundant life is achieved." And I've always loved that quote, because there is that thing of like, you need to stop looking at this as a restriction or giving up. It's actually, by introducing what you're talking about, the simplicity, you're opening up to more space in life for more other things, and the ability to do more with the recovery you're having and everything else. So yeah, people need to hear that and take that seriously, that what you've just said there about the change that happened in your mindset and the way you were looking at it. Did you notice any other particular changes in how you were thinking that made that kind of impact?
Yes, I did. Yes. And I also want to respect your time here. How much time do we have left?
We got 40 minutes.
Okay. So we got a little bit. Okay, good. So yes, I did notice changes in my thinking, and I've noticed, I've mentioned in other interviews that nervous tension, just a calm. You develop this calm, and that's not peculiar to me. I think most raw foodists will experience just a general, it's like a sigh of relief, like
right.
And if you can take that sigh of relief and translate it into metabolic terms, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what, it's hard to describe, but it's just like this burden that just goes and just relaxes, right? That started to not take over, that's the wrong word, but I noticed that in my thinking, where I wasn't as excitable. When I say excitable, I don't mean you're not excited by things that are exciting, but just excitable as in things don't rile you up as much.
Yeah.
It was easier to maintain my equanimity under pressure and maintain my calm and poise under either stressful situations, or I'll give you an example: being late to work. All right, in the film industry, you are not late for work. You do not want to be late for work. It is not a good look, right? You never want to be late for work. And one day when I was late for work, of course, for whatever reason, I recognized that, you know, prior to, this is a couple of years into this lifestyle, but on my way to work, I was very calm. And I caught myself remembering, like, holy crap, you know, if this was several years ago, I would have been freaking out. But now I had a very unnatural, not unnatural, but just calm, like because there's nothing I could do about it. I'm in the car, I'm doing what I can, and life will go on let's say everything goes to crap and I just catch the worst crap ever from work, you know, life will go on. I'll still be alive. I'm still going to have a home, you know, all this kind of stuff. I was just calm. And that's when I really noticed, you know, things changing in my mental attitude towards life. And of course, the conditions of your physical body influence your mental functioning. If there's all sorts of metabolic chaos going on here, that chaos, that's going to translate up to emotional and mental chaos and turbulence and nervous excitation. Yeah, that's all going to translate way up here. But you can't separate these two realms. And when you clean up one realm, it affects the other, and vice versa. If you really go into, you know, a really deep meditative type of reform for several months, yeah, you might find that starts to improve your digestion, your absorption, right? You make the changes up here, you feel the effects in your physical, and vice versa. The reason I like to focus on the physical is because that's the easiest change that we have at our disposal. It doesn't require as much, how do I say this, discipline as living the lifestyle of a yogi or something. You know, we have the most easy access to the most profound changes in life by tackling the foundation of it all, the base physical body.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why, you know, I find it's easier to start from the ground up and work on more mental complexities later on once the physical body is cleaned, rather than working from the top down. I feel that that's a harder transition, right? Excuse, that's my phone. Just excuse. Just
Excellent. Yeah. Very simple question then. What do you do in a day as a diet, maybe as in terms of any other health practices you do? And has that changed over the years?
It has, I want to say not really. It's not really changed over the years. Like since the time I started till now, it hasn't really changed. Like slight tweak. Yes, there have been slight tweaks and improvements. Yes. I'd say one of the bigger changes is far less reliance on dried foods like dates and figs and dried apricots, dried plums, black mission figs. I would make very, very liberal use of those when I was first starting out, because, you know, like a lot of us, when you're coming from a more concentrated diet to a much more calorie sparse diet, like fruits and vegetables, sometimes, yeah, you want to make up for that density or that, you know, with food, and dried fruits was a way to do that for me. So I eat far less dried fruits now. They're still on the menu. There's still something that I can order from the Eli menu if I choose, but I just don't make that choice often at all. So that's one of the major changes that I made from the time I started till now. Other than that, and a lot of experimentation, because when I started out, so primarily after my first year. So my first year of the fruit-based lifestyle was very strict, very, very strict, exclusive fruit-based lifestyle, a couple of vegetable meals here and there, some nuts and seeds, even more rare than the vegetable meals. Okay. So after that year, that's when I started getting into the experimentation phase, where I thought, okay, I've done this for a year now. Now I need to, because I'm going to be putting up this channel, I need to try all sorts of different things so that I can know what their effects are. So I got into just experimenting. Okay, what does this meal feel like? What does that meal feel like? What happens if I go back and eat this conventional cooked food meal? What happens if I go back and eat this conventional cooked food meal? What is this combination like? What is this combination like? Will this work if I, you know, if I'm dealing with clients and or people on consultations, I want to know, I want to have a whole repertoire or repository of options that I could suggest for them. So I was going through all of these experiments. Okay. So I've done a lot of these experiments now, and I've gotten a lot of them out of the way. So I guess that would be another major change in my lifestyle now that I was doing earlier on that I don't really have as much use for now. There's going to be no end to the amount of experiments that you could do or curiosities that come up, sure. But it's just I do less of it now than I would have in my second, third year of this lifestyle. So I would say a combination of, the dried fruit use and different types of experiments. Those are the major changes. But in terms of what I eat, that's pretty much stayed the same. Right now I've got a pantry of mangoes, some cantaloupes and honeydews. I have some pears, some nice Bosch pears in the fridge right now, a bunch of oranges and apples. And yeah, that's about it. Oh, I've got some bananas as well. Stuff that I've always been eating. You know, I've never really stopped eating things. Yeah, so no big changes in what the selection, but just the dried fruits and the experiments. But other than that, you know, been eating the same wide variety of fruits that I can. Oh, actually, you know what? Hold on a second. I have something very interesting. Where is it? Sorry, I'll be right back with you in just a second. Oh, where is Okay. So this is I found some snake fruits.
Oh wow.
This is I've never seen it sold. I live in Toronto and I've never seen it sold in Toronto. This is what a snake fruit looks like. Okay, it looks like a scaly snake skin. Yeah, it's really interesting. And when you open it, I'm not going to eat it now, but when you open it up, it's like a lychee. It's very much like a lychee, except sweet, but not quite as sweet. It's got a blend of sweetness and weirdness as well. and, you know, it's called a snake fruit. It's strange looking, I guess. So the weirdness comes part and parcel with the appearance. But anyway, so I still do find things that I've never tried before. I'll still do combinations of either fruit or even vegetables that I've never tried before, just to know, right? And that I don't think that'll stop for anybody on this lifestyle. You know, we're going to be human. We're going to be curious.
Yeah.
So.
And do you eat kind of as a mono-meal style? Do you do smoothies? A number of meals a day? Eat throughout the day? Like do you have any kind of style to it?
Yeah. Thank you for that. I totally missed that. That's important to know too. Most all the meals I eat are mono meals. Yes. No, I can have multiple fruits in a window. So let's just say I give myself a 2-hour window. I could eat. There are times when I could eat 2 to 3 types of fruit, but I'll space it out in mono meals. So I'll eat only the mangoes at one point, only the melons at one point, or usually the other way around. Usually I'll have the melons first, then the mangoes, and then if I feel like having something a bit later on, then I'll have that later on. But always the mono meal. Sometimes not. If I'm going to be combining food, it's usually combining banana with something else. So if I feel like having a bowl, something I can eat out of a bowl, I can chop up either apples or pears or something else, strawberries or blueberries, and mix some banana with that, and that's a good mixed meal that I can eat as a change. So nice. if it's not a mono meal, it's a simple combined meal of some simple combinations of fruit. How often do I do that? During the day, very often it works out to one bigger meal in the day, and then that's it. So within a 3-hour window, let's say, I might have everything that I need for the day. Wow. Very often it works out like that, especially when I'm at work on set. Very often I'll just go to work, do whatever, you know, kill the day at work, and then eat when I get home. That's something that I do very, 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 very often. If it's not that, and I'm not like die hard fixed on that, it doesn't have to be that all the time. And I must eat one meal a day. I'm not like that. I'm very, you know, I'm pretty easygoing with it. If I feel like I want another meal in the day, I'll have it, and it'll probably be a repeat of the same meal I had earlier in the day. So, so it's either 1 or 2 meals a day. Very often 1 meal, sometimes 2 meals during the day, and that's usually how I split it up. If it's 2 meals, maybe 1 meal at around 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and then the other one at 5, 6. If it's 1 meal during the day, maybe it comes around 3 or 4 o'clock. But again, you know, it varies. It varies.
Cool.
But that's generally how I split it up. Yeah.
Do you what do you think about like avocados and higher and maybe nuts and seeds, like higher levels of fats? Do you try and keep I don't really like the term low fat diet, but more like the amount of fruit, the amount of fat that's in fruits, the normal amount, I guess. Yeah. Do you try and stick to that? Do you have the higher fat stuff? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. I do try to stick to them, but to the higher water content fruits with less fat content, I try to stick to those more so. And it's not for any lack of trying to eat the higher fat foods. Okay, higher fat. I have tried so many meals of the higher fat content fruits, and through just constant repetition, every single time, it leaves me feeling just less good, for lack of a better term. Okay, you never feel as good, as light, as energetic after a high fat meal, even if it's healthy avocados or whatever, or healthy nuts and seeds, like a salad with, you know, pistachios, or a salad with walnuts, or what.
Yeah.
No matter how many times I've tried this experiment with in all the possible combinations that you could make those, you know, have those meals in, I've tried it all. Whether it's all, like a huge bowl of just walnuts, a huge bowl of just pistachios, lettuce and pistachios, lettuce and walnuts, other raw foods like carrots and beets with nuts, or with avocados, just avocados, like a meal of like 5, 6 avocados. Like I've tried like every single conceivable combination. And through constant repetition, it's not that I'm making like a disciplinary choice to avoid those foods. It's just that my body has learned over just me constantly doing it that I never feel as good eating those things. And I am forced to come to the conclusion that it's just better for me to not include as much of those in the diet. Now, that doesn't mean that you should avoid them completely. Include them in your diet as you see fit for your particular progression on the path, right? So for wherever you are, if you feel you need them, use them, right? They're raw foods, they're nutrient rich, they're going to serve you. I just over time, as your diet becomes cleaner and cleaner and cleaner, what you might find that you are now more and more sensitive to the type of concentrated fats that are in those foods, and that you start to feel their encumbering effects a bit more than you would have said years ago. So, so to answer your question, those foods are still good. I would still prescribe them to people who need them or want them. In terms of my life, I don't eat them very often at all, and that's because it's not because I'm using discipline or whatnot or any intellectual reason. It's just that I've done it so many times, and I can't ignore the feeling of being weighed down or encumbered by those things, and so I just stick to what doesn't make me feel that way. And so when I have a lot of like nuts and seeds or avocado or whatever it is, then I do feel more weighed down. I would say there might be one exception, not an exception, but coconut meat is also a very high fat food. But there seems to be something lighter about coconut meat when if I make a meal of a whole bunch of coconut meat, it's a different feeling than if I make a meal out of a whole bunch of just avocados. There's something about the way that coconut is absorbed and digested that seems to have an easier time in the system than either avocados or nuts and seeds. So yeah, so I've noticed that, but that doesn't mean to say that I eat coconuts often. It's just that when I have done those experiments, I've noticed that. So however you want to interpret that information, go ahead and serve you. But yeah, for most of the time, eating just high water content foods.
Another simple question: have you ever felt the need to use supplements, or do you use any supplements on the lifestyle? And what's your thoughts on the use of supplements?
That's a tough one. Okay, direct answer: no, I haven't. No, I haven't felt the need or use for supplements. I've never used them on this lifestyle. There was one instance where I used B12, liquid B12, for like a week, and it wasn't for any necessity. It wasn't because of any blood test. It wasn't because of anything. It was just purely an intellectual thing. I just read a bunch of stuff and like, I wonder, maybe I'll just try using some B12. But after I used it for about a week, and then I just couldn't escape the feeling of this being not a natural. It just didn't feel right. I don't know. That's just me. It just didn't feel right. So I stopped doing it, and so other than that, okay, if you want to count that, that's fine. But other than that, over these past 6.5 years, I've never had any need for any kind of supplements or of any kind, or like pills or powders or any of that kind of stuff. Yeah, no. So you asked me, what do I think of them? I said it's kind of hard because on one level, I understand that as soon as you extract chemistry from a natural product, from a natural organic fruit or vegetable, as soon as you extract that chemistry is no longer serving the same purpose. It is fundamentally changed. And so when human beings take these things and put them into a powdered form, pulverized, heated, cauterized, or whatever, bleached, all these things that we do to make them either pills or powders or liquids or whatnot, you so radically change the nature of that chemical constitution that it can't possibly be serving the same role as it does in the apple or the beet that it was extracted from. And so your body doesn't really recognize these things as should be recognized. So let's just say it's beet sugar. You extract the sugar from the beets and you concentrate it and you put it into you crystallize it, whatever. Your body doesn't recognize it as the same type of beet sugar that it would if you just ate the beet, right? It's totally different. That's the difference between processed white sugar and apples and bananas, right? Of course it's different. We all know that. But it's not really different with supplements. You're still extracting things in a way that changes their very nature. And so knowing that, I don't know. Like I know that some people, I know many people have been helped with supplements or seem to be helped, but I think what's really happening is just internal efficiency. Like if you have a good level of efficiency that you can cultivate through cleansing or fasting or dieting, I think that you can start to chip away at and take care of nutritional deficiencies just by ramping up your body's efficient use of nutrition from food. So long as you can do that, I think you're on a good path. I know that lots of people will disagree with me. I know there's the whole B12 debate. And, you know, we don't need to get into all that, but this is just my personal approach. And what can I say? As far as I've seen up until this point, I have not seen any sort of health impairment or trouble that leads me to believe that the answer is a supplement. So in my life, it seems to be working. So, you know, you have to make your own health call, see what works for you. But I don't believe that when our bodies are working efficiently, and I'm not saying my body works, you know, perfectly or anything. I'm not there yet. But when we start to cultivate a good level of efficiency, it would seem to be that you get everything you need from the food.
Yeah, and I've seen so many people that have said similar things. They've never felt the need to use supplements, so they've not used them, and that goes against what a lot of people would expect, which is interesting.
Yeah.
I'm interested in any other sort of health practices or routines that you do outside of the diet, and maybe talk a little bit about your physical exercise as well. But for example, do you have a set pattern around sleep? Do you do any other practices, meditation, breath work, stretching exercises? Do you have any mental stuff, any emotional stuff that you use as part of your health practice, going out into nature, anything else? Just all of these things maybe that you've incorporated in from your studies as well.
Yeah. All the non-food and dietary related things. Sure. That's good. Yeah, that's good. I do take my spiritual development very seriously. I've looked into and studied a lot of esoterica, and I try to incorporate that into my practice and into, you know, my channel. I try to give lectures on some esoterics and occult science as well, because it's all, you know, they all work hand in hand with one another. So yes, I do different meditation techniques and practices. I will do things like something called tactile imaging, where you can, it's a really interesting thing where you can feel as if someone has a finger or an object and is rubbing a part of your body. And when you do this in meditation, what you can do is you can use mental effort and will to stimulate the nerves in a particular area of your body that you like to bring energy to. And so doing that in a systematic way can help to bring healing. It can help to do all sorts of things that your will charges that energy to do at that particular spot. So that's just one example of a type of meditation that I could do. It's not always that type of meditation, but yeah, I will switch it up and vary between different styles of meditation. Sometimes it might just be a very just cutting off all thought and connecting with higher energies than my current energy, right? Just connecting with planetary consciousness, just connecting with any source of consciousness that is higher than my own, and sometimes it's just that. And I've had wonderful experiences doing that, incredible experiences. Like, you know, I'm not going to get into it, but yeah, amazing experiences. I focus a lot on astral projection and capitalizing on when I am sleeping, and using that to try to do lucid dreaming and astral projection, which I've succeeded at many, many times. And so I find that is a very, very interesting and potent source of information and life improving. It's a life improving phenomenon that we can really capitalize on if we get into this subject. So I do like these subjects. I'm very interested in them, and I do practice them in my life. Yes. So that's in terms of meditation. Let's go with stretching and flexibility and exercise and all that. The way I approach exercise and fitness is I don't do as often blocks of 40 minutes of activity. You know, I don't, if I go to a gym, I don't need to go to gyms, but if I do go to a gym, I treat physical activity like you would treat practicing keeping up, like juggling a ball, like a soccer player juggling a ball on their, on their knees.
Yeah.
I treat physical strength and physical activity like a skill where I'm just practicing it throughout the day. So I never the approach that inspired me to start getting into this was the Pavel Sasulin. Pavel Sasulin is a strength and health and fitness coach. He's got some wonderful books on how to capitalize on strength and on pure strength, which is kind of the foundation stone upon which all other physical skills are built, or physical feats are built, just pure strength. And so he really inspired me. And Doug McGuff also was a really good coach for me in this. I can't remember the name of his book. I can't remember the name of his book, but Doug McGuff has some really good information as well. So those two authors, they really changed my orientation around how to structure my fitness. So right now, as of now, what I do is I play with physical activity. I don't work out to get tired. But I just do strength feats and little strength challenges all throughout the day. Okay. Whether first thing I do in the morning, wake up, just jump into a handstand and try a really, really tough type of planche skill, and then stop, go about doing my work. Try it again, like 10 minutes later. Try it again, 40 minutes later, that kind of thing. And I just do that constantly throughout the day. So, to vary it up, to switch it up, I might do some Tabata exercises as well. So like a circuit training, quick 5-minute, 8-minute routine where you're really, really, really exerting yourself hard and then resting for about 10, 20 seconds, exert yourself really hard, 10 to 20 seconds of rest. And so it's short and sweet, done in about like 8 minutes or so, right? So when I'm not doing that skill-based approach, and I want some more dynamic kind of cardiovascular work, I'll just bang it out in a short period of time, and that's it for the day, right? Easy. So my approach to fitness is, again, simplified. Much like my diet is simplified, and I don't do it to exhaust myself ever, right? I never exhaust myself during doing physical activity. If I'm going to exhaust myself, that'll be because work, it's a necessity for work. I save that for when I have to, but when I'm training, I never exhaust myself, okay? There's always way more left in the tank to be able to do everything I have to do for the day. So that's my fitness approach. My flexibility routine is the same thing. I don't have to stretch every day, and I don't, but I like to just play with flexibility. Just every once in a while, do a flexibility type of skill, and then leave it for a while, come back later. With flexibility, your diet is like, I know it's not what people want to hear, but like 80% of the game with flexibility comes from diet.
Wow.
When the muscles and the joints are loose and lax and hydrated, your flexibility is so much better naturally. So, take that for what it is. So let's see. So what did I give you? So I gave you my meditation routines, my exercise and diet, or exercise and flexibility, and on top of that, there isn't too much else in terms of health maintenance. I do get outside, get some air, get some sunlight. I like spending time in the sun. And I live in Toronto, Canada, so it's hard to get too much sun in Toronto. Let's see. Every once in a while, I do like going to the to the saunas and doing like a steam room or hot room, with the note that is an extreme tax on the system. It's very energy expensive. So when I do have those days, I make sure that I've got the rest of the day to completely relax and rest. I make sure that I get to bed early. Oh, sorry.
No problem.
Are we still good? Yeah, we're still good.
Yeah.
I make sure to get plenty of rest on those days. Make sure to get to bed early. There's no partying on the day when I go to a sauna, right? So I'm mindful that this thing is a tax. It feels fantastic. It feels so good You feel so light when you come out of a sauna, you know, good like 2-3 hour session. Oh my God, you feel fantastic, but it's very taxing. So, so when I do those days, the rest of my day is clear. Like there's nothing else going on. I can relax. I can eat. I'll eat minimally. And so yeah, so that's one thing that I like to do every once in a while. It's not all the time, but you know, it's worth mentioning because some people might not know that I do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Just from everything you say, even what you were saying there about the sauna, it's so clear how well educated you are with the hygiene stuff, because that's like something that comes in line with Herbert Shelton as well, where we'll talk about, like, if you're doing a sauna or something like that, people think that's detoxifying quicker. And he says, you're just losing more water. You're not detoxifying quicker. You can't force the body to detox. And it's been a real pleasure to speak to you, man. I love listening to all your ideas and thoughts and your philosophies. And how about we finish off, and you can let people know just where they can find you and learn more from you, and what you offer as well, if there's anything that you offer to people to.
Sure. And, you know, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you. Such a pleasure indeed. And any time that we can get, I mean, you do such fantastic work. The interviews that you put out, the work that you put into your channel, and just exposing people, exposing people who have a message to the public. It's just such fantastic work. So first of all, thank you so much for everything that you do and for offering me a spot onto your platform here. I don't have, besides my YouTube channel, there's not really much else to give you guys. So my YouTube channel is the Freemelon Society. You can go and check it out. I have an Instagram account as well. I upload exercise videos and just like sample meals that I'm eating. So just like clips and glimpses into my lifestyle at the time. That's kind of what my Instagram is there for. I don't use it a lot, but people can check me out on Instagram as well, because you'll find a lot of stuff there that I don't have on my YouTube channel. So between my Instagram and YouTube channel, that's how you can find me. I do consultations when I have time. You know, it can be very busy for me, you know, working as in film as a stuntman, especially like right now, I have lots of consultation requests that I just can't get to because of our schedule here. So I do offer them. It's, you know, but I'm just one dude just offering this when I can. So, but you can reach out to me either on Facebook or Instagram or whatnot. And, you know, that's something I offer, but just heading to the channel. If there's something there for you, then fantastic. But that's how you can get more involved in the stuff that I teach and the stuff that I do.
Thank you very much, Eli. And I encourage everyone to go to the Freemelon Society on YouTube to watch more. He's already got a lot of videos up, so you can go through them, and he covers a lot of the stuff that we're talking about today. He's covered in more detail in a lot of his other videos. So if you want to learn more, you can go to that channel and find that stuff there. Thank you very much, Eli. I want to thank all the listeners and viewers, and encourage you to share this with others that you think it might help. If you can like the channel, give us a review, do whatever you can do to help us. And we'll see you in another episode of the Love Fruit Podcast. Thank you very much, everyone.
Perfect. Thank you so much, my friend. All right, subscribe to the channel, guys. All right, thank you so much for tuning in.